welcome. Really nice to see you all. This is an unusual setting for me. I've learned a lot about facilities management in the last 60 minutes, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot more over the next 2 days. Today, I'm going to give you a talk about chaos. Quite fitting right now. The chaos and unpredictable nature of our lives and how relatively small decisions we make as citizens and professionals have become amplified through the rapid rise of globalization and technology. Now, obviously, those issues affect every industry and every sector, including facilities management. But today, I'm going to use fashion and sustainability as a vehicle for telling that story. Coffee break. Ta-da! Okay, here we go. So what is fashion? Fashion is beautiful, it's expressive, it's creative, it's aspirational. It can also be incredibly judgmental. Aesthetics of taste come into it. People are judged by what they wear. It's also ubiquitous, pervasive, present and visible in every culture. But there's more to fashion than meets the eye. It's a $3 trillion industry, and it's globally fragmented, has opaque supply chains, and is the second most polluting industry in the world. Moreover, as individuals, we have varying degrees of consciousness over what we buy. For some, clothing is a vehicle to express our identity, to present a certain version or image of ourselves, not only in terms of our own personal style aesthetic, but also the values that we hold. Are the products made from sustainable materials? Are the values we hold present within the clothing that we buy? Do we buy from ethical brands? Are they locally produced? Are they artisanally created? For others, it's more functional. Does it fit me? Do I look nice in it? How much did it cost? Is it comfortable? So the clothes we buy say a lot about who we are, and how we now buy them says a lot about how far as a society we've come and developed, sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse. As globalization has allowed more and more complex supply chains to develop and a larger and more insatiable customer base to emerge, exploitation of people and resources has been an increasing problem as brands and retailers put greater pressure on suppliers to have their products in store from design stage to finished product within less than 3 weeks. The old manual linear system of fashion has become increasingly under pressure from fashion's new master, and that master is technology. Technology has the potential to be a force for good. It has the potential to drive efficiencies, cut costs, and drive transparency. It allows for a greater understanding of the consumer than we've ever had before, and respond to behaviours and trends much more quickly. But currently, there is a tension between the demand driven by brands and consumers and the ability of these 19th century linear supply chains to deliver on that demand. And right now, we're just not able to cope with that demand in a sustainable way. This era is unprecedented. No one really understands how to tame the multi-strands of technology in this new globalized open context in such a way that you can get all of the potential upside, strong business, strong brand, loyal customer, etc., without having to deal with the incredibly complex and highly unpredictable occurrences that develop. Moreover, how the world communicates the story of fashion in 2018 is fascinating. And today I want to assert that the opportunity to create positive effects and negative effects is really apparent, and we all have far less control over how that plays out than you think. Let's say, for example, and I saw a gentleman with a striped shirt over there earlier. Let's say, for example, I say to this gentleman in the audience, Where did you get that shirt from? And you say, oh, I bought it from company X. The camera from the conference then zooms in on you and puts your face on the screen. Someone from the audience takes a picture of the screen, putting a note, hashtag nice shirt, hashtag company X. This person who's taken the picture puts it on his Instagram, and that Instagram has 100,000 followers. Now, you're saying to yourself, I don't have 100,000 followers. Well, more and more people do have 100,000 followers, and you've got to remember that's 46.1 million less than David Beckham. Anyway, let's just say there is somebody in this audience, hypothetically, that took that photo, put it on their Instagram, put those links in place. His social media followers all start liking this post, and this small-scale shirt company makes a comment, adds a link to the shirt on their Instagram page, and a buying frenzy ensues. And soon their website and all other online retailers who sell this striped shirt sell out. Company X promptly reorders, double the amount of their original order, and make a request for a 2-week turnaround so as not to miss this viral Instagram opportunity. This Turkish supplier, whom they've had a long-standing relationship with, but they've never audited, then they've always relied on the fact that companies bigger than them have audited them, and as far as they know, they've never had any issues, though they've never seen an audit. The factory also cannot fulfill this order. It's peak season, it's short notice, they don't want to lose the order, so they accept it and they give it to a subcontractor. This subcontractor, however, does not have stable long-term customers. They're reliant on getting orders from larger factories nearby. As a result, 50% of their workforce is temporary. They do not have good HR systems in place and kind of know that their workers don't have official papers and they're foreign, but they're cheap and they're willing to work long hours at short notice. The perfect workforce for their kind of business. In the meantime, the shirt company, oblivious to this supply chain issue that's happening, is happily tweeting about the demand of this striped shirt, along with assurance that their Turkish suppliers are on the case and it will be in stock in 2 weeks. These tweets get picked up by the press, who are just finishing an investigation into Turkey on Syrian refugees. They realize that one of the factories they're investigating has actually just received a shipment of striped fabric. And yes, they're producing this lovely shirt for Company X. They also reveal that these Syrian refugees are undocumented, underpaid, and also pretty clearly underage. They contact the brand for a right to reply, who deny the relationship to the factory. This isn't our supplier. The press team then published the story online. The knock-on effect, a terrible battering for the brand's reputation. This poor gentleman's face all over social media, along with details of where he works in this conference. He had no idea when he got out of bed this morning and chose that shirt that this was going to happen. This simple, small decision creates huge effects across far-reaching parts of the world. And you may be sitting here thinking, that is ridiculous, this could not happen. Well, it happens all the time. Primarily right now, it happens with celebrities. You may have heard of the Kate effect, Duchess of Cambridge. Everything she wears gets sold out within minutes. This puts pressure on supply chains. Supply chains then get investigated because the press are very interested whenever this kind of social media phenomenon happens. It happened with Reese about 2 years ago. And interestingly, more and more people are becoming social influencers now. Regular people like you and I that just get engaged in things like Instagram with interesting stories to tell. We can create large social media influencers within a matter of months. So that means the opportunity for you and I to be involved in one of these viral stories is becoming more and more likely. Lorenz calls this the butterfly effect, where one small decision in one place can have far-reaching consequences in a remote and unconnected system. This is chaos theory at work. Professor Goldin believes that globalization, rapid technology, and the development the rapid development of technology mixed with political changes and ideological changes can also create negative, unintended ripple effects across the world, creating systemic chaos. So mobile technology seamlessly connects the virtual and the physical world, allowing users to learn about places and opportunities and incidents in other countries in real time. It allows people to mobilize on a really large scale, the Arab Spring being one of the most common examples. But despite many of the benefits this has brought, awareness raising and sometimes improvements in living standards and health, there is a chaotic, unpredictable dimension to this complex technological interrelationships, and systemic risk is there and it's prevalent. The complexity reduces our ability to make well-informed decisions and leads to a loss of responsibility by both us as individuals and also globally as companies. When we make a comment or post something on social media as individuals, we have no idea what chain reaction that may cause. And if something serious develops, like pressure on a supply chain due to great demand on what we're wearing, or as was the case a few weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this, but there was an American white girl going to a prom and she wore a Chinese traditional dress. For the following 2-3 weeks, there was a storm across social media about cultural appropriation. I'm sure she had no idea when she put that dress on for the prom and took that photo that that was going to happen. If these consequences can happen as a result of small decisions made by an individual citizens, the effects can be even more impactful and systematic when made by us in our professional lives. On the 24th of April 2013, 1,134 people died when a sewing factory in Bangladesh collapsed. It was producing for some of the US and Europe's largest clothing retailers and collapsed due to structural problems. It had been very recently audited and passed, but the auditors were looking for social and environmental standards, including health and safety. This did not extend to structural surveys, and up until this point, no social or environmental audit in the fashion industry did. When a disaster disrupts in a tightly linked global supply chain, Goldin asks, who is to blame for not taking sufficient precautions? Is the manufacturer to be held accountable for not undertaking structural surveys? Is the local government to blame for not mandating compulsory checks? Are the brands to blame for putting undue pressure on manufacturing, causing constant overtime and pressure to not even take the time to evacuate the building and have it inspected, despite large cracks appearing in the pillars over a series of weeks and repeated concerns being raised by these workers? 15 years ago, this disaster would have made the headlines in some national newspapers and would have quickly been forgotten, at least in the West, of course. But the opportunities to mobilize quickly on a transnational scale through mobile technology has meant that the pressure has remained on the brand suppliers and the Bangladesh government. A body of people in the fashion industry mobilized after Rana Plaza. It was debated at national and supranational level. Pressures was put on brands to come together and implement structural surveys across the factories, and now there is a global fashion revolution day, engaging millions of people on social media on the anniversary each year. On the ground, the collapse prompted 2 initiatives to improve the Bangladeshi factories that do business with Western brands. These 2 gave the factories until this summer to improve conditions or risk losing their relationship with Western brands. Those 5 years are up this summer. However, as the deadline approaches, reports claim that many factories are still far from near to adhering to the safety standards that are required. So technology has helped upspeed supply chains and also raise awareness globally and instantaneously when things go wrong. But it does not help in deciphering how to deal with those issues and who should be responsible, nor does it guarantee that global awareness raising and civil mobilization will create lasting, impactful change. So how do you try and deal with systemic risk in a globalized context when it's muddy and complicated and the lines of accountability and responsibility are far from clear? Well, for me, the answer lies in the model of resilience. Resilience being the capacity of any entity, individual, community, or natural system to prepare for disruptions, to recover from shocks and stresses, and to adapt and grow from that disruptive experience. In a globalized world, we have seen disruption is such a regular occurrence. Businesses around the world have long understood the importance of readiness, particularly around financial controlling, safety and risk management, and they've also embraced the concept of sustainability. But as Michael Kuhl explains, there is a subtle difference between sustainability and resilience. With sustainability, the emphasis is on sustaining things, avoiding change. With resilience, it's more about accepting that change is inevitable. I endorse sustainability strategies. I spend a lot of my time advising, designing, and implementing them, but they are a challenge to do successfully in a business context. As this era of sustainability has also coincided with the era of economic efficiency, both of them being fueled by globalization and technology, economic efficiency has compelled companies to embrace concepts such as lean management and just-in-time supply chains. These approaches, when over-prioritized, can lead to the higher social and environmental costs, such as we've seen with Rana Plaza. Companies, when looking at resilience, first need to take a long-term and realistic view on the liabilities and vulnerabilities, and the fact that all kinds of shocks will happen, and how best to prepare for these disruptions and respond and bounce back in a way that is holistic and integrated. This requires a proper understanding of a company's value chain and stakeholders, and a plan that includes a shared response to shocks when they occur. Part of Bangladesh's problem and its inability to bounce back post-Rana Plaza is that despite an initial, rightful, concentrated focus on compensation for families and for building audits, the vision for Bangladesh remains focused purely on risk reduction rather than long-term resilience. This lack of stakeholder integration means that the $280 million investment that they've made already will move the needle slightly towards better quality buildings, but there will be no great change in the way the garment industry is run, and thus it will remain vulnerable. This, of course, is not just the case. This case is not just confined to Bangladesh. You can see this across the whole of the manufacturing map for fashion, and I'm sure for other industries too. So fashion's relationship to technology and globalization is complicated. It's a success story, but it's also a nightmare. It shows fashion to citizens at its very best via Instagram, streamed catwalks, the creative process of haute couture, the craftsmanship behind iconic designs, but it also shows the negative, the landfill, the exploitation, but as yet it does not provide clear answers for consumers or companies. There is still a lack of authoritative information out there which allows consumers like you and I to make informed decisions about the clothing that they buy. And also for companies, it has the promise to give great insights into consumers and the ability, potentially at least, to create digital, closed-loop, cleaner supply chains. But with that idea of digital, closed-loop supply chains comes huge investment, and that needs to completely, and also a need to completely change a business's model of how they run currently. And what will be the outcome after that investment? As usual, no one really knows. The outcome is unpredictable. So technology and globalization provide both the problems and the solutions, but the solutions are only resilient ones if we accept that we all have a collective responsibility to implement them. As Stella McCartney says, everyone can do simple things to make a difference, and every little bit does count, but we can't always predict how. Thank you.